Hello and good afternoon. We're on to lesson number 3 of our World War One unit, and a very quick look at World War One. We're going to look at two key things today. Firstly, what were the key events of World War One, and secondly, how did Britain's empire support the war effort? Particularly, what part did soldiers who were not born and bred in the UK play in this tremendous war? As usual, start with a recap quiz. So I'll give you 5 minutes to have a go at those. Off you go. So, as we know, Franz Ferdinand was shot in Sarajevo. Gavrilo Princip fired those shots. Austria-Hungary threatened Serbia in revenge for the death of Franz Ferdinand, and that directly then led to World War One, as it triggered off that chain of events that led to war. And the UK, of course, joins the war to protect little Belgium. Because we had promised to, and we didn't like the fact that the Germans were picking on a small nation, as that was our job. So, World War One lasts for 4 years and involves millions of people. There have been hundreds of books, films, articles written about it, and I'm trying to cram this into a lesson. I can't do that, but what we can do is give you a little bit of an overview and allow you some opportunities to read and research for yourselves. So if you have a look at this timeline, cover some of the key events and some of the key changes that the First World War brought through. So what I'd like you to do is to make either a mind map, 3 lists or 3 flashcards with the following headings: new weapons and technology, the names and dates of key battles, and the effects on women and the people left at home during the First World War. And actually, once you've done that, it'll give you a very good little summary of the key points of the First World War, and we're going to look at a couple of other key ideas separate to that. Okay, off you go. Okay, hopefully you should have a few couple of key examples of the key dates, battles, new inventions, and please go away and research this a little bit more. We're going to just spend a few minutes looking at trench warfare before we move on to look at the role of the empire. Trench warfare is what everybody needs to know about the First World War. It's one of the pivotal things, and if you do GCSE history next year, you'll look at that in a little bit more depth as well. World War One is fought mostly in terms of a British point of view on the Western Front. Now that's a big generalisation, and you'll find a little bit more about that a bit, but certainly when we think about trench warfare, we're really thinking about the Western Front. That's where the bulk of the trenches actually were, and that's a line, a front is where the fighting is happening, the line at which the fighting is currently happening, and it stretches from the North Sea, the English Channel, all the way through France down to the border with Switzerland there. Now most British troops, by far the largest number of British troops, fought in this area during the war. After early German successes, you can see how far they got. They nearly got to Paris under the Schlieffen Plan. See that green line there. They were then gradually driven back over years of war, but it took 4 years to gradually drive the Germans back. So this is what we call stalemate. The war became a stalemate, a draw, which nobody can actually win, and this is mainly to do with trench warfare. What's a trench? Why did they build them? Click on that YouTube clip and we'll be back in a second and show you a little bit more. So if that gives you a bit of an idea of why trenches were used, what the point of them was, mostly due to the terrible new weapons that had been invented. You can see a little diagram that trenches aren't just one, there's not just one trench, there's layers of trenches, and this is what makes them even harder to get through. So if the frontline trench, the support trench, the communications trenches, you have a reserve trench, you have artillery, heavy guns in the background, so they're pretty difficult to get into. Trenches are cut into a zigzag pattern so that if you get into a trench you cannot shoot all the way down the whole line of it, and they're very well protected, and you can see here some of the protections in the second diagram down the bottom. Sandbags. Now sandbags will absorb shrapnel, bits of bomb, in other words, they'll absorb bullets and they won't throw out other shrapnel, so they're a good, quick, effective, cheap way of protecting you. They're not actually necessarily full of sand, they might be full of mud, but they serve the same purpose. Down at the bottom of the trench you have a duckboard over what we called a sump, which should keep your feet dry. It almost never worked in British trenches. They're usually flooded, especially in autumn and winter. Northern France, where a lot of the British soldiers were based, in Belgium, is very much like the weather we get here. You would have behind the trench machine guns firing out, so you'll be able to stand on the far side to shoot out over the trench. The barbed wire slows your enemy down, and there could be many layers of barbed wire in a typical trench system. As you get caught in the barbed wire, effectively you're a sitting duck and being picked off. The barbed wire won't kill you in and of itself. People often make that mistake, but it's to slow you, to make it harder to get across. You're also crossing muddy ground, shelled ground, there's no cover. Trenches are an ideal defensive position. So as it says in the text that I've written there, although the trenches are extremely good, you can get into them. It's a common myth that you couldn't get there, you just got shot immediately you came out. You didn't. Very often you did, but you didn't necessarily. Very often the British and the Germans would get, the French would get into the first, second, third line of trenches. They would capture a whole chunk. But the problem was you lost so many soldiers capturing that trench that you couldn't hold on to it. So when the counter-attack came, you had to leave, you had to go back. You might only be able to grab hold of that land for a very short period of time. And once you captured the trench, holding on to it was a completely different kettle of fish. Sometimes one group would grab hold of a chunk of a trench, hold on to it, but they couldn't get the message across quickly enough to get support and backup. There's no proper radios until later on in the war that they can use. You have to use flags and flares and things like that, so it's very hard to communicate your success. In trenches and in trench warfare, the conditions were atrocious and appalling and inhuman. Machine guns were extremely effective and caused horrendous injuries. There were snipers, the gas was used, which would do, if it didn't kill you, could blind you temporarily, could ruin your lungs. People suffered from severe mental trauma called shell shock due to the constant stress of war. And it wasn't understood at the time, but people initially were called cowards as a result. There were other diseases, trench foot, where basically your feet begin to rot. Your toes go black and drop off. If you're not easily horrified, search up trench foot on the internet and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. There's a disease called trench fever, a bit like a terrible version of flu, bit by flies and ticks. And soldiers suffer from boredom. You might be fighting 10 days out of a month, a year, a season. You're very often not fighting, but you're under constant stress, getting 4 hours sleep max, always on edge that there might be an attack that you might have to attack, that you might go in a raid. You're exhausted, you're homesick, and this caused enormous mental strain in these men. So trench warfare, trench life was atrocious. If you click in the little link, you'll hear some real voices, not just mine, talking about their genuine experiences of when they had to come out of the trenches and go and attack the Germans. And so while you're watching that clip, have a think about and jot down some ideas as to describing the feelings and the experiences of these men, what they went through, and hopefully that would make sense. So if you haven't already done so, watch the 2 clips, answer these questions. I will be with you with the answers very shortly. Okay, so here we go. Just we jot those down quickly and then we shall move on. So our second theme of the day is the British Empire in the First World War. You can see the map here of the British Empire. It's in orange. It's a nice sort of vintage looking map here. You can see the huge scale of it. And actually the map probably doesn't show Australia particularly well to scale, or India in fact, but the British Empire is colossal. What it also doesn't tell you is how important India was. India has a population of over 315 million, and Britain makes colossal amounts of money for taxing India and treating with India unfairly. Britain and India have a terrible relationship in terms of benefiting the Indians. Their wealth is being extracted and shipped back to Britain, and has been for a very long time. There's no accident that India was called the jewel in the crown of the empire. And so while individual Indians might very well have been poor, Britain still exploited them, and through the sheer number of them and the valuable goods that they could produce, such as spices, cotton, other luxury goods, this benefited Britain hugely at this point. It made Britain one of the most competitive trading powers in the world. Britain, as you can see, also had big chunks of Africa, had some land in the Far East, which you can probably just make out, and of course Australia, New Zealand and Canada. Australia, New Zealand and Canada are a little bit different. They're technically dominions, they're almost independent, but they tend to follow Britain and whatever Britain does. You get the big lands, a giant amount of land in Africa. Some of it, particularly in South Africa, is very rich with gold and diamonds, which is why we stole it in the first place. Australia, New Zealand and Canada are predominantly white in their makeup, because once again we have exterminated the native people living there, much to our lasting shame. Perhaps not as severely in New Zealand, although there was still an issue there, but certainly in Canada and Australia, the lands of the indigenous people had been taken away from them quite shamelessly. So the majority of the people that come from Canada, Australia and New Zealand to fight are white, and they're descended from British and Irish people who have, within the last couple of generations, left Britain to move to these new nations. As you can see from the table on the other side, there's about 5 million soldiers coming from Britain. 1.4 million soldiers in the British Army who fight for Britain are Indian, which is nearly as many, in fact it probably is just about as many as all the other soldiers from the Empire put together. And one of the great tragedies of history is that contribution of Indian soldiers has been very much overlooked. Although say when we say India, we're going to be careful, it's not India as we know it now, it's India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, part of Afghanistan, Burma, Sri Lanka as well, so it's from all different parts. Most of the soldiers actually, or many of the soldiers at least, came from North India and were very often of Sikh or of Muslim background. There were Hindu soldiers and other groups as well, but certainly Sikhs and Muslims, particularly from the Punjab area, were particularly favoured and had been favoured by the British for a long time. The reason for that is actually fairly racist. The British simply thought that these northern Indians belonged to a fighting caste, a fighting group, and therefore were naturally better soldiers. These racist ideas are popular at the time, but not that justifies them in the slightest. We also depend on the Empire for other things like food, particularly from Canada, wheat from Canada, supplies of rubber and oil, cotton from the Empire too. So we rely on the Empire for supplies and goods very much too. Now up to 74,000 Indian soldiers died in the First World War, which is about 10% of all the British casualties. About 700,000 British soldiers died and 74,000 Indian soldiers died. So that tells you the level of their sacrifice, and at least as many were wounded. Now the British had promised to discuss independence for India, or at least it had been an implicit promise that, if you do this for us, we'll look at the circumstances. But being the British Empire, we broke that promise after the war. And these Indian soldiers, it's important to remember, are volunteers. They weren't forced to fight, they chose to fight. Many thousands of other nationalities died as well, particularly amongst the Canadians, Australians and New Zealanders, who sort of came to fight for what they thought of as their motherland. So as always, that's a quick run through the text. Have a quick go at these questions and we'll put the answers up in a second. So about 1.4 million Indian soldiers. Certainly some of them believed they would get independence. Some of them were fighting because it was seen as being a good job and because they were well paid for it compared to what they might receive in other jobs, which is very much the same as young British men as well. The Canadians Australians and New Zealanders were often told that they were fighting for their homeland, their motherland, and that they had this pride and their British sense of identity. They still viewed Britain as their mother country. They were also told that the Germans would take them next. If they didn't fight, they would very much be next on the Germans' hit list. So that explains who helps from the British Empire. So where did they actually get involved? And the answer is everywhere. So soldiers from India, and that includes the modern countries of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, as I said earlier, fought in many parts of the war. They fought in the Western Front. Very, very early in the war, an Indian detachment fought the Germans and helped to turn them back at the very, very early days in 1914, before the British Army was sort of properly up and running. So they were hugely important in the very early days. They later on in the war they fought in Gallipoli in Turkey, where Winston Churchill had a brilliant idea of landing a force at Gallipoli and then using that to conquer Turkey, or the Ottoman Empire as it was known then. It went disastrously wrong, and many thousands of Indians and other soldiers died there. And they fought all over this area of the Middle East, particularly fighting the Ottoman Empire across this sort of area here, what's nowadays Palestine, supporting the British as they drove up. The British were desperate not to lose control of Egypt, and drove up from Egypt through into the Southern Ottoman Empire. Canadian soldiers fought very broadly as well. They fought in the Western Front. They were considered to be extremely brave, and also tended to be physically bigger and stronger than the Europeans. Partly there is an element to which this is a myth, but there is an element of truth in it. Diet and Canadians tended to have a better diet, consume more meat. The food was cheaper in Canada, more readily available, so they did actually end up being bigger and stronger than Europeans, and the same is true for Americans, Canadians, New Zealanders and Australians. The Anzacs, as the Australians and New Zealanders were sometimes known, fought in many places. They also fought at Gallipoli in the Middle East. They also fought in the Western Front, particularly the Australians, and were often joined with the Canadians. And it was in fact a Canadian general who became very successful towards the end of the war and came up with some new tactics. So again, hugely important. South African and other African troops fought against the Germans in Namibia and East Africa, and they were supported by troops from elsewhere as well, so there were more Indian soldiers there also, and the conditions were often dreadful. There were also thousands of native what we call orderlies or labourers who were also involved, and many of them died. So the British Empire contributed hugely to the war. There's a little link there, I'm not going to follow it just now, but if you're interested in reading a little bit more about what happened during the war, there's a really fascinating article about Indian soldiers and actually why they were forgotten. So what effect did the war have on the British Empire? So Britain wins, as we know, well hopefully you know. In 1918 the Germans were forced to surrender, but the war cost Britain a colossal amount of money, was left hugely in debt with hundreds of thousands dead or injured, and in the long term Britain could no longer afford this huge big navy to protect its empire. Britain was bankrupt. However, the British Empire actually grows after World War II. They took over some German lands and some Turkish land, particularly Palestine and the Middle East, and we were supposed to give them back, give them independence. In fact, we seem to have forgotten to do that, as was our way of doing things. Another effect of the World War I in the British was that many Indians felt betrayed by Britain. Now, very seriously, they thought that independence would become a possibility if they helped us. We would help them. No, and more Indians began to campaign for freedom, and certainly a man called Mahatma Gandhi becomes more prominent after the First World War. There's more resentment towards the British, believing that they've broken their promises. So although Britain, its empire, survived World War I, it would not survive World War II. World War I Britain weakened Britain so much by World War II, it couldn't protect Australia and New Zealand. So in World War II in Japan, attacked. Britain couldn't defend against Japan. It was no longer that strength. And we basically left Australia and New Zealand. These countries that had come to our help in the First World War said, I'm sorry, we can't protect you. And that really was a death blow for their view of Britain. And certainly they began to rely and look to America a lot more. We lost other lands in the Far East as well. World War I made the desire for independence grow stronger in India and elsewhere. And this process grew stronger, this feeling grew stronger as years went by. So World War I wasn't fatal for the British Empire, it was another wound in what was a hugely expensive and increasingly dying beast. So, quick exit quiz there. Gives you 2 minutes to do that. And there's your answers. Thank you. Oh, you get those down, make sure you correct any mistakes, and we'll speak to you again next time. Thank you very much.